Okay, so I've switched over to show you the working station. Just to recap, we're going to do this shadow box with the llama insert on the inside. So I'm going to show you how to do the insert step by step, as well as how to make this shadow box. So we've used different material. I've used cardstock. Get this out properly. I've used cardstock. As you can see, there's quite a few layers there. Cardstock to do the layering of the llama design, and this is a PVC plastic sheet that you get in 30 by 30 centimeters at your crafting stores. They come in 30 by 30 centimeter sheets. So I'm going to show you how to make the shadow box, as well as the llama card insert for the shadow box. So our shadow box is designed specifically for this design, but you can always change the size if you would like. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside and let's get started. So just a few things you need to have handy is, especially we're working with the Brother ScanNCut, so you need both of your mats, your turquoise low tack mat and your standard tack mat. You need some 505 spray adhesive, some Pritt, normal Pritt would do, or any glue, and you're going to need double-sided tape, painter's tape. You're going to need this puffed double-sided tape as well. You either get them in squares or circles, and they come in sheets like this. And then lastly, you can either use the quarters clips, or you can use, for your shadow box, or you can use paper clips, whichever one works best for you or what you have handy. Like I said, I have quarters clips, I'm going to use them. Okay, so first we're going to do the cardstock. So I'm going to put my purple standard tack mat away. As you can see, my mat is quite dirty. We've used it quite a lot. To clean that, you can just use an alcohol-free wet wipe. And then here is our different colored cardstock. So you need 5 different colors of cardstock. Well, 4, and then 2 of them are the same color. So choose white for this particular llama insert. We have a blue, pink for the background, and the gold to make the beautiful curves. Almost it looks like a rainbow. So the design has 5 layers. That's why you have 5 different pieces of cardstock. The normal A4 cardstock is fine for this one. It doesn't need to be the 30 by 30 pieces of cardstock. And then these are our 2 sheets for our shadow box, the top and the bottom. As you can see, they're quite big. They come in the 30 by 30 centimeters. So I'm just going to put that on my purple mat. Okay. So I've already removed my protective layer. There we go. Make sure your machine is plugged in before you start. Okay. And we're going to go search for our design. I've already pre-designed and edited the files as I needed it. And I've placed it on a USB to bring to my machine. Always try and work with your stylus. It is best to work with your stylus. The machine will calibrate. And I don't want it to bring up my previous design. The ScanNCut does have that function that if the power went off, you can retrieve the design. Same as with the embroidery machines. But for now, we're just going to go retrieve data, and we're going to go to our USB. And I know it's under my ScanNCut, and it's my llama shadow box. And I've layered my design and saved my design as the entire design, as well as the different layers. I saved them apart. It's just easier, instead of having to go back and delete different parts if you have the entire design. And then you're not always sure, am I deleting the right parts? Am I duplicating something? So I like to save them as their separate parts, and also give them a name. Say layer 1 in white, so that I know exactly I have to bring in my white cardstock. So we're going to do layer 1 first. It's very easy then to keep track of the different pieces that you have to do. So I'm going to say okay. Just going to move that one a little bit back. And then we're going to adhere our cardstock to our mat. As you can see, my mat is not quite as sticky anymore. So what I use is a temporary spray adhesive. I prefer the 505 because it doesn't leave a residue behind. and you don't want to leave a residue on your mat. So you're not going to spray directly on the mat. You are going to take your paper away from your mat and away from your machine, because you don't want any particles to land on the side of the mat here where your rollers has to go, and you don't want any build up on your registration marks. So just a little bit of spray adhesive on the back side of the cardstock, and you can just stick it down. Wipe out all the air bubbles, and then I use my painter's tape. This is not like masking tape, this is a specific painter's tape. So if you ask for it at your local hardware store, make sure you get the right one. It's not the beige masking tape. I just tear off pieces, and I just make sure it goes nowhere. My cardstock goes nowhere. This colored tape also helps that when you've scanned your mat, that you can see exactly where the edges of your paper is. If it doesn't tear like this, it's fine. Let's just grab another piece. So I know my design is going to cut quite at the top, so I don't have to adhere any tape here to the bottom. So just like that, adhere the corners, and the tape will then help you, because we have a white paper on a white surface. It's sometimes difficult when you go to the machine to see what is paper and what is the back of the mat. So my colored tape really helps for me to align my design on the edges of my paper, on my cardstock. So always make sure you support your mat when it goes in, otherwise it can go in askew. So just place your hand in front of the steel bar and apply slight pressure, and then press your mat loading button. And then as it goes in, move your hand forward and lift it up. This will help for the mat to go in flat and not create those waves or bubbles in the bottom of the mat. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to scan the background. So start. It's going to insert the design of the mat and scan the background. I'm just going to move you guys a little bit closer here so that you can see what's on my screen. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just change, I don't have to actually change the background, but I just want to show you that it is possible by the little spanner over here, it is possible to change the background, and then it would make it much lighter. This especially helps when you have a black piece of cardstock or paper or whatever you're going to cut or material that you're going to cut your design out of, and you have the black cutting lines. You can't always see it. The darker one shows the white much better. So I'm just going to edit. I'm going to move this. I can zoom in a little bit more. And I'm going to move this so that it's exactly on my cardstock. So now this is where the green tape comes in handy. So I can see exactly where I need to align it. Go a little bit more. Now if I hold it in, I'm going to go too much. And now I'm on the cardstock. And I'm also going to go up a little bit. I can go in a little bit more. I'm going to say, okay, now I know it's on its place where I want it to be. And I can just continue. If you want to edit it even more, you can make it a little bit bigger. You can add a design if you have your longer mat. Two of these designs do not fit on the 130 by 30 mat or the 12 by 12 mat. You can rotate it if your piece of paper was a different way. You can mirror it depending on how you want to edit it. If you wanted to color in this and you didn't have a colored cardstock, you can color in the whole design. Show you how that would look. So here's now where you can add and play with all the functions of the ScanNCut. You can color the whole design in if you want to. But I have the right colored cardstock that I want, and there's some more editing functions that we've played with on some previous classes. So I'm going to go OK and OK. And I'm going to go OK again. From here, I'm going to select cut. I'm going to do a test cut. I like doing a test cut to always see if my settings are correct. And this also gives me time to go back to the settings that I've changed for previous projects. So when cutting paper, I like a slower cutting speed, 1 or 2. 2 is very nice for the cardstock. Just helps the blades to make those beautiful corners. And my cut pressure would be on auto. And then my half cut is going to be off because I'm not working with vinyl at the moment. So those are the 3 main functions to look at. And as you can see, my test cut dropped in here at the top corner. So I'm just going to move it a little bit inwards because I want to save some of the cardstock at the bottom, especially in here. It's off of the paper. This is where the green tape comes in handy again. I'm just going to leave it there in the corner and say, okay, you can even bring it on the inside of the design, but I think I can do something with those circles maybe for another project. So I'm going to leave them and not do a test cut on them for now. I'm going to do okay. You can change your test cut. You can do a square or a circle, this open triangle or a circle. Oh, look at me, a circle. Square, a triangle, open triangle, and a circle. You can even rotate them if you'd like. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller. I like using the triangle, especially because it gives you those corners, or you can do a square as well. But yeah, like I said, I like using the triangle for the corners that it cuts to see if they come out clean. You can then do okay and start, and the machine would then do its test cut. You can either use your hook set, your spatula hook set, or the spatula that came with the machine to remove the little triangle to see if it had made a clean cut. And as you can see, it made a clean cut. I'm just going to drop that in there, and then I can tell the machine you can start and carry on. So I'm just going to carry on cutting after I did another test to see that it is correct. Okay, so it's going to carry on until it's done. It's going to go into all the little crevices and small little pieces. Let's just pull this one back up. And then it's done with the first one. There you go. I like to always just check that it did cut through before I remove my mat, because then it's easier to do a second cut, whereas if you've unloaded the mat, you'll never be able to put it back on the same space or in the same spot. So like I said, I just like first removing, or just checking with my spatula that the design did cut through. Just going to move you a little bit back again. There we go, sorry for the shaking. I'm going to unload my mat. You can also put these in here, that's a nice spot for them. One you can throw away. Close your dust cover. Always keep your dust cover nice and closed, just to save your sheen. And then you can just remove your painter's tape. Remove it quite slowly and then softly, because otherwise it will tear the paper. This is not a tape that you can use for a second time. So once you've used it once, it is best to throw it away. Don't try and save the adhesive is not as strong to adhere a second time. Remove all the corners. And then use your spatula to remove. This is why I say don't spray a lot of spray adhesive, because this still has to come off very easily. This part you can throw away. This little slim sliver of paper that's left. But these pieces you can save and do something with them again. And that's why I put the test cut in the corner and not randomly somewhere in the middle, because I know I can use this piece again. So remove that to the side. You can't really see the white paper now on the white background as soon as I've moved it. So if I can just bring it closer for you, you can see here on the mat, there's a little, or on the paper that it's cut, there's this little tree here at the bottom, or a little bush. You have to remove this very carefully with the spatula, as not to break any of the pieces break it out, especially that little flower there in the middle as well. You have to go underneath with the spatula to remove it. Let's see if I can do it this way for you. So that part I'm going to just lift slowly and softly until it pops loose. Same with this little flower, just going to go under it until it comes off. And then move to the next one. So you can't just push it in here at the bottom, because that little piece is in the middle, has to stay there. So don't be scared to just turn your mat. And move around with your spatula and follow the design. There we go. And then you can remove your first layer. And this is what it would look like. I'm going to start cutting the shadow box while I start gluing my different pieces together of the layered shadow box insert, because I know this cuts for quite a while. My ScanNCut mat is still quite sticky, so I'm not going to use any 505. You can see this has two sides to it, so I like cutting on the wrong side. If it doesn't have a wrong or right side, you can just choose either and glue it down. Make sure you wipe out any of the bubbles. So take your tape and adhere it. And adhere it. Make sure you can use some extra pieces at the top if you want to. When it's a stronger, more stiff material like this one, I would adhere it a little bit more than I would with paper, just to make absolutely sure it is not going anywhere. I'm going to do the bottom part first. So this is pre-designed, and it is available in an SCM file. Because I have a new project, I'm definitely going to do a test cut. But this one might take a little bit longer to test because it is a thicker PVC plastic sheet. So it is going to test maybe once or twice, like it did. They went back to its default start and then it went back into test. And because I'm working on a much harder project or material, I leave my cutting speed on 1. So now you can just hook out see if it did a clean cut. If it doesn't want to come out, just lift your corner. As you can see, it cut through. And you can tell it to start. And give you an extra tip. Right here, the machine starts cutting the inside or the outside square first. So I pause the machine. I'm going to take my painter's tape again. You can change the layers as well. I did try and change this design's layers, but it doesn't allow me, no matter what I do, it still starts by cutting the big square instead of cutting the insides first. So I start again. As it moves around, I just take those pieces in place, because sometimes the inside does tend to come out. Just as a precaution, I follow the cut around. I'm going to carry on where it started, or where you started. Just going to bring all of our pieces in. And that's glue. Don't forget the 2 little extra pieces that you had to cut. And I like starting with my llamas and starting with the face. Then I have to adhere on so that I know the pieces that I left on my mat doesn't go anywhere. Just going to put that next to me. So with our Prit, I'm going to slowly start removing, just grab this little piece back. Start gluing. This does become a little sticky situation. Make sure you've removed all of the pieces. There's still a piece in there. Make sure you remove it from the back and glue it into position. And remove with the spatula, remove the other blanket for the other llama. You can also just put press stick on the llama itself. And like I said, I like using the opposite side of which cut widget cut out of, because sometimes it doesn't nick the paper. So using the opposite side will just give you a clean edge. So if you have a specific design that you cannot just use the mirror image of, make sure you mirror image it before you cut. You can grab a tweezer to work with these smaller pieces. So again, I'm going to use the opposite side. Place that on the glue. Move it around. Move it. Notice they do look the same size. It doesn't matter which one really you stick on which side. And then again grab the other piece. So I think the cutting and gluing the llama's face and eyes and ears takes the longest of this design. And here we have the first layer of our design. And that is what your llamas would look like. And I'm going to start with my pink background. And I need to grab my butterfly off my mat. This is discard, so you can take this off. And I'm going to remove this butterfly. And so what I do, I take my second layer, or actually the third, because I start building from the back up. I just place it onto the design, or my fourth layer, so that I can see where the butterfly, you can place it straight. And this is now where you're going to use your puffed double-sided tape. For the butterfly, I just start by cutting it in half, because the block is a little bit big. Don't discard of the first piece, and just stick it on there. And then, because my third piece, my blue color, is placed exactly where it should be, I can glue my butterfly in place. Because this thing gives me an indicator when I remove the third layer where my gold layers have to go. The gold layers lay just below the butterfly. So I place them where I think they should be. And then just test if it is exactly where I want them to be by building my design. And if I'm happy, I can just move this around, move it up a little bit. So this will just kind of give me a complete picture of where I want the designs. And then I'll remove the top two layers again. I'll flip this one. You can use a little pencil or do a scraping, make a mark with your tool. And that's where you want the design to be, just so that you are sure that you stick it back. You do flip this around now, and then stick this little guy full of double-sided tape. So on the end, I like using a full block, up a little bit, and here I would use a few full blocks, and here where it is thinner, I would cut the blocks in half, just to have the two pieces over there. Now because you've made your marks, you can remove the opposite side of the tape. And now follow your marks. Just find that one and then just put it a little bit to make sure that it goes straight and it doesn't bubble. And then you can just press on the little spots. And we're going to repeat the steps. This one, if you stick it down not exactly where you made those marks earlier, that's fine. It's still going to create a beautiful design. Marks are there and there. And then with the last one. And remove the backing. And guide it into place. And these are my two marks. So the marks do help you to just guide them where you want them to be. Now we're going to add a blue layer. Again, like I said, I like working and back to front. So for this one, I'm just going to stick double-sided tape all around the edges. You can either stick them on the back of the blue, or you can stick them on the pink. You give them quite a few blocks of puffed double-sided tape, because I want it to remain strong and puffed so it doesn't bend and fold as easily. Now you just have to remove all of these little pieces. If you have strips of the double-sided tape, that also, the puffed double-sided tape, that would also work. Now the tricky part comes in is to glue this straight onto that, to glue this straight onto this. Just move those blue pieces out of the way, they come in handy later. So I like working from above, and that's why I build from the top down, or from the bottom up. There's a little piece that I didn't weed out. And I have to place this straight. Take some concentration, take your time, because this is not something you can just pull off if it's not correct. And the second piece is complete. Thirdly, we're going to use this part. So we're going to just move this aside for now, because this is the only place where you place this on top. That one goes there, and this one goes here. And for this one, you would not use double-sided tape. You would just use your normal glue and glue this in place. And then you're going to build from the back up again, because this one now goes on top of this. So using your puffed double-sided tape, if it comes off in a row, it's fine, just break the row apart. Now you have to work softly, as not to push down too hard and create any dents in the design. And then you can just go around and remove it on the other side of the tape. And now again, just make sure you align straight. And then lastly, you add this, and those two little extra blocks you added will then give the illusion that the blue is coming through there. And for this one, you can just add extra one there. And again, just going to take care to align this very straight. I'm just going to make sure I have all the pieces. And you can just press it down slightly. And there you have it. Beautiful insert for a shadow box, and then you can see the different layers. Okay, so as you can see, it's cut through. Removed it from the background. See if I can get close enough to the camera to show you the perforated marks, if it allows me. It doesn't really allow me. There's the one cut mark, and right next to it there's perforated marks that run all the way down and across. So I'm just going to put this one aside so that we can adhere our second piece to the mat. So I'm going to place the second piece for the top part of my shadow box. And I'm going to wipe out from the middle to the ends. Wipe out all the e-bubbles. And I'm going to stick the tape back in place. Go and get the top part of the shadow box. So shadow box, top, load your mat. Make sure to support and load your mat. And we're just going to move the design back into the corner. Just going to make sure I move it so I waste the least amount of product and materials. You can select cut. If you feel more comfortable to do a test cut again, you can, or you can just select start. So while that is cutting, we're going to take the piece that's already been cut, and on the perforator, this is now, we're just going to make sure I stuck it down upside down, which is this side. So on the perforated lines, you're going to start to fold this and press it so it makes a little bend in this PVC sheet, in this plastic sheet. And you're going to go all around until you've done it to all four sides. So now what I do, once I've turned them all inward, I turn my design upside down because I want to stick the double-sided tape or place the glue on the outside, because that one has to go in and then this one goes up, so that the fold is neatly on the inside. So I'm using normal double-sided tape with some quarters clips just to keep it in place. So cut only the piece that is necessary for that little block. So that piece, that big. Here. But I like to stick two at a time and create one side. So now I peel this off. Make sure you don't peel off the whole thing. Fold it inward and stick it down. And I use my quarters clips to keep it in place for the two ends to just adhere to one another. Give it some pressure there. But it just gives the double-sided tape some time to adhere to the other piece. Now I like to just give some extra, fold it again, and just make sure the box squares out, and so that the sides don't flare open. Yeah. And that you're just going to set aside and leave it with its quilting pins all around. If you want to, you can already drop your first piece of the shadow box in there. Just get past that. And you can just see how beautiful that already looks. So sometimes you would see that the machine goes back and it cuts a second time over the same design. That does happen. If it does cut a second time, especially with something that's a little bit more thick, you can just let it be. Make sure you don't have any double designs. You don't want it to cut double. But the reason that I would cut double for this is to make sure that it cuts through. So it does happen sometimes that the ScanNCut decides to go a second time. And then it cuts out a little window for you as well in the top. You can cut, there is an option on the FCM files to cut a window out of a see-through piece of PVC, or you can glue in a piece of cellophane if you want to. And that is our top lid cut out by the ScanNCut, and like I said earlier, it cut out twice. Okay, so now we're going to remove our mat. Close our dust cover. As you can see, this inside comes out quite easily. So this is where you can cut a piece for the window. It is bigger so that you can glue it to the back of the front of the box. Remove all the double-sided tape. It would have cut through all the little pieces because it cut twice, and remember we added this middle tape in the beginning. And you can just remove the inside. So again, on the perforated lines, see them a little bit there. Start folding. That's the back. Start folding on the outside. Start folding. Just give it that extra press. And again from the other side, use your double-sided tape. Tape it inward, press it down. And use your quilting pins or even a paper clip to keep it in place. And then just make sure you bend all the dash lines again so it creates a square. So once this is stood for a while, you can remove your clips. Pull the bottom of your box closer so that you can remove these clips as well. Okay, so lastly, we're going to cut the window for the shadow box. So we're going to retrieve our data in our shadow box folder. I labeled it window. So we have this see-through, it's almost like a, I don't actually know what to call this, but it's this see-through sheet, if you can see it, that we're going to cut the window out of. So I'm going to use my standard purple mat again because it gives me a nice standard at ear ends and not my low tack mat. So I'm going to stick this down on my mat. And it does have this nice white stripe on the edge so I can see where it is tacking down. But this is not something that I'll be able to see once I scan the mat because it's see-through, it's transparent. So I'm going to use my painter's tape, my nice bright painter's tape, and I'm going to place it on the edges so that I can know where's the edge of my sheet. So now when it scans in, so you can see the shiny sheet on the mat. Now when it scans in, it's going to pick up my tape and it's not going to pick up the transparent sheet. So I'm going to open my ScanNCut, move this one a little bit closer again, and I'm going to load my mat. And as I can see here, it's past my green tape, so I can just move it into place so that it fits perfectly and cut out your window. And it's going to cut it out perfectly. This is a quick cut. It's a square that's 18 by 18 that fits our shadow box. So unload your mat, close your dust cover, and now you can even turn off your ScanNCut machine. So take your spatula and just place it underneath, lift it, and pull off. I'm just going to move that out of the way and pull off your transparent sheet. You can see we've already done our shadow box. Now we're just going to assemble everything. So I do have the base already, and we've assembled the different layers of our shadow box. So I'm going to drop that one in there and it's safe. And now we're going to take the lid that we have and we're going to turn this one upside down. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use double-sided tape. This is quite a broad one. If you have a thinner one, you can just use it on the edges. So I'm going to use it and I'm going to cut little strips And I'm going to place this on the edges. It's about 4 strips on each side. And then I'm just going to go around and remove the other side of the tape. And then just make sure you drop it the right way around in your lid. And you can just place your lid. And you have a beautiful shadow box with a shine. And it will not collect any dust.